a lot of things to share about this run. It's been probably the most unique run I've had ever. At the beginning, I came in here with the idea that I would use the Synapse with as much as armor removal / reducing as I possibly could. I brought in corrosive projection, coaction drift, corrosive, and heat. If I'm not wrong, the total armor reduction or stripping that I would be getting would be around the 94.5% or something like that. I think it's above 90% armor reduction. The thing that I was not counting with was that that was still a lot of armor. So after I saw that my initial build was actually starting to fail, I was wondering, well, since I already got here, can I get to level cap with this? And the answer was yes, because I actually brought enough extra juice for it. And we also, then the question became like, where your viral and heat build can take you. Pretty far, I have to say. But of course, when you have a build that you're mixing a lot of stuff and not focusing on specific stuff, that's what happens. You know, your build will fail because of this. Now what I want to do is to try to kill the demo with armor strip with this prototype of a hidden Herod. It actually works. Okay. Now that that works, let me give you guys some data. This build, viral and heat, not very complicated. I've made viral and heat because I've watched the engineer video yesterday, and that actually got me inspired to bring a beam weapon, and I already wanted to bring the Synapse for a long time because it's one of my favorite weapons. So what I did was to bring the Synapse, bring as much armor reduction, armor stripping that I could without being an ability or shattering impact, any of the total armor stripping, and see how much damage I could do. And at the beginning I was very confident that I could get to level cap and just kill them without that, but 5%, it's still 5%. That 5% is a lot. And so, yeah, I brought the heat. Oh, I should have triggered that. Okay. It is what it is. Full juice again. So, I brought the Varan hit because I figured that some heat procs, since the way that the whole beam weapons work, it would be kind of a waste if I didn't have any status going on. So I focused a little bit more on the status chance and brought in heat so I could keep stacking it. And actually the heat procs are pretty crazy if you stop and take a look. But yeah, against that it is not focused. You won't be seeing like absurd amount of heat procs and all that stuff. But the heat procs that are on the enemies, they are gonna be dealing some very good damage. So, yeah, that was the idea. And the weapon was actually able to hold until round 25. After that, it just went downhill, was not able to kill anymore. And I might just lose this. Yeah, I think I'll lose this. Oh, come on. No, I'll make it. Yep. So, weapon without buffs, without anything, only the weapon, not even a primer, was able to hold up to round 25. Around the 800, something like that. After I started using Roar, same stuff lasted until wave 30. Without Roar, using only a primer and the weapon, held up to round 33. Roar and the primer actually only held up to round 34. And only armor stripping only actually held up to round 43. After that, after those levels those rounds that I've just said, the build, the way I was using to kill demolishers stopped being effective, really effective. I can even try to do a against the expired, it will just work, but it doesn't really feel as viable against the other demos without something extra, without the primer or without most stuff. Or it might just be like, I don't know, sometimes I know that there is something going on the damage and status chance as the multi-shot and stuff goes on. There's the beam doesn't start at the maximum damage, it ramps up and then it ramps down. That's how it goes. But really sometimes it's a little bit inconsistent. So yeah, the question was actually the weapon choice, was because not only that, but the Synpase is a super strong weapon. I think there are videos, I think Dystopia made a video where he took it to level cap without armor stripping, like completely 100% armor stripping. So that's something to show you how strong the weapon is. It's really crazy. Now that we got over all of that, I'll actually try to see how much damage are we gonna deal with this. I think we're not gonna be dealing like nothing. Well, let's try it anyway. As you can see, the primer is there, but it's not. Yeah. If I would armor strip this thing right now, the procs would get it like so fast. The heat that's there, 100 stacks of heat. That would just melt this thing. Absolutely melts. Probably a one shot. Let's see. Not one shot. 700. Yeah. That was super interesting. And this is even like, if you stop and think on the very particular parts of the build, we could make it much better for each thing that we were focusing on. If I wanted to make this a hit inherit, I would completely remove the viral from the weapon. If I wanted to use the viral only to kill, then I wouldn't be using the heat on a weapon. Also, for the build how it is, to make it a more use of the CO on the weapon, I would just completely get rid of the viral from the epitaph and use something instead, but would probably not be the best option. But yeah, just so I can get like more elements, more procs. I think that would be interesting. But yeah, even the 5, it's crazy how you see how much 5% armor is. And really, yeah, it's level cap, right? They need to have a crazy amount of armor. So yeah, that's another thing that you see, that you just to think about, how powerful are guns that are able to kill enemies without like the armor strip. Like how powerful is something like the Perigil? It's just so crazy. Also, for using raw damage, only the viral, as I mentioned before, it could have brought the Eclipse. One thing that I have to mention that I never saw anyone talking about, and people don't usually talk about this, is how the mission itself is when you're using different types of characters, different types of frames. Bringing a stealth frame here is easy, is extremely easy. But now bringing a Warframe that does not have invisibility, it's a whole different story. This mission is a nightmare. I would tell you, if you're not bringing a weapon that can one-shot, don't come here with something like Revenant. Don't come with a frame that does not go into stealth. Because here, unlike Kappa, we have, instead of like only what Scorpions and Maniacs, we have an extra 2 enemies, two, 3 enemies, 2 enemies. No, 3 enemies. We have a three extra melee enemies, and so these guys are gonna be piling around you, and will prevent you a lot of time from hitting the demo, and that's terrible. That's really bad. Also, as there isn't as much verticality as there is on Kappa, enemies will just come at you really fast. They will be able to shoot you from far, won't have that many stairs that they have to come up, all of that stuff. That is actually, I think that's very important to say. Also, there are no Noxes, so that's a good part. But at the same time, it just feels like you have so many more light armor enemies with weapons that shoot really fast. It just feels like they drop Mesmer skin so fast. It is unbelievable. But yeah, it was still a very interesting run. I never did something like completely going for so many tests. I think I never ran so many tests on the same run like this one. It was probably the most test intensive run, and it was pretty crazy. Weapon pretty much held up with only the armor strip. That goes to show how strong the Synapse is. That will work even with the shitty build that I have here. Revenant Prime build. The only difference here is really the corrosive projection and the coaction drift, which are really not ideal. Really, it's just not as good as I thought. This is the Synapse build. I have a Riven, but I didn't find a place to take it. I mean, I don't even know how good Galvanized Aptitude is for this weapon, if it is additive or multiplicative, I have no idea. But could have dropped Aptitude, put it in this mod here. You know, there are many possibilities. You can make a ton of different builds for doing this, really. I had a build here. This is probably, I'm not sure. I don't think 100 munitions will... It might just hold up to level cap, but I don't know. If you want something else, like for level cap, you can bring the same build here, but instead we can make a pure viral, even if it was like this here. I'm not gonna have I have too many forma. It's even hard to make other builds here. And just do this. We can put a galvanized scope and drop this, or not, and I could just bring my Riven. I think this would work pretty fine. We would get into the orange crits. If we'd used Ash, I think we'd have a good chance of getting to the red crits. Probably, potentially. Yeah. You know, you can use something like this. You can use something like this. You can even trade. Yeah, no, it's not gonna be as good to use galvanized scope with a slash build, really. But still, like for the very early levels and probably till level 1000, you have like absolutely no problem killing anything. After that, things get hairy. Let's say. What else we could use here? You could even turn this into a hidden inherit build, like go completely with a hidden inherit build. Like drop this. Oh, okay, drop this. Maybe put on some heat. I won't have the space here, guys. I'm sorry for that. Maybe put these two. Put a not cry around aptitude, maybe, who knows? And then even hammer shot, or we could go for some fire rates that is really missing, depending on what you're gonna use on this build. Yeah, the magazine is a pretty good size with the innate, like the base fire rate that it has. You won't have as much problem. It really is. I mean, status chance is not incredible, but there is a ton of possibilities that you can run with this weapon. Things will just work, I'm pretty sure, because the weapon is just so good, guys. Come on. Let's build back what I had going. The galvanized scope, and then the socks and malignant force. Yep. Pretty good. The best thing would be to use infected clip instead, but I don't have the form again. The epitaph. This is the weirdest epitaph build I've ever made. It is an attempt to make a hit inherit build. An attempt. It is slow. It is weird. Does it work? Yeah, kinda. And I mean, it's actually pretty interesting to be able to make a hit inherit out of this. Of course, it's missing a great Riven with a Bane and stuff, and even with this disposition, really not the best hit inherit you can make. But still, it applies a lot of status. It contributed to the hit inherit. Not even hit inherit, because there wasn't like something like crazy OP going on, but it was still pretty good. So yeah, I think it was still viable. Like, not the best thing, but it was still viable. For the Zaw, yeah, same one. Able to kill a lot of things. Not sure if this would kill demos without Eclipse, to be honest, actually. And for the cat, the Toxic Cat, bringing all of that viral to everyone, saving my butt a lot of times with Martyr Symbiosis, and just, yeah, doing what it does. It was pretty interesting, and really, at first, what happened was I really overestimated my build, underestimated enemy armor, and probably underestimated the weapon, thinking it wouldn't perform as well with a shitty build like the one I had. So even with that, guys, it just worked. It might be a shitty build, I know, but it just worked. You know, you see, you don't need the best and most OP stuff in this world to go level cap. After you start doing it, you'll see that it is actually easy. And it doesn't require as much stuff, as much min-maxing as you would think. So, yeah. Let me know what you think about the run, what you think about the builds. Which build or which element, what would you go for with the Synapse? Leave in the comments below. Leave a like, consider subscribing.